The two-week ceasefire expires on Wednesday, and the president says he has zero interest in extending it. But of course, the clock is ticking, and President Trump has warned that a failed deal means strikes on critical Iranian infrastructure. So could potential peace be slipping away? Welcome to the Big Money Show, everyone. I'm Jackie DeAngelis, along with my co-hosts Taylor Riggs, Charlie Gasparino, Brian Bremberg, and with us for the hour, Michael Lee Strategy founder. Just before market open, the president sounded off, saying that the U.S. has totally won the war, but he's not rushing a deal, adding that he expects to be bombing tomorrow. It's typical Trump negotiating posture, maximum military pressure, genuine openness to a deal, but no deadline setting the terms. J.D. Vance is heading to Islamabad, Pakistan today to lead another round of negotiations, but I just saw a headline that he's making a quick stop at the White House first. Iran will be sending representatives despite tough talk, and investors uncharacteristically measured. Either traders believe a deal gets done or they've stopped pricing in every headline. Either way, it could give President Trump some runway. So, Mike, all options appear to be on the table with respect to what the president can do here. He's got assets in the region. He can bomb the infrastructure. He can make a deal. But this morning he said it's got to be a great deal. And we know what that means in his characterization of it. But these markets are very measured.
So, the markets turned negative on that J.D. Vance headline that he wasn't already on his way, and there was some hesitation about him leaving. But let's, you look at this from the 10,000-foot standpoint. Iran has suffered $200 billion worth of damage, according to the Greek gentleman from the Daily Mail. We've hit over 13,000 of their targets to their 17 of ours. This is a completely one-sided affair. And yes, there's been some political pain here, a little bit of economic pain here, but nothing like what they've felt on the other side. And for the Iranians to talk tough about this, which they have over the past few weeks, it's a little bit of Monty Python, right? And that this is merely a flesh wound. It's almost a joke. So they know if they don't make a deal, right, you've got another week or 2 or 3 weeks or 5 days or whatever of us going after more significant targets. And if we take out some of that oil infrastructure, there's a chance they never build it back again. So what I think the market is pricing in and is looking at is that it's in everyone's best interest to come to some sort of a deal right now. And even if it's not final, if it's got a framework, then we'll work towards that. And we've seen that with the tariffs and the way that Trump is that he is going to be as bombastic as he has to be to get to where, an ending point that's suitable for him and for the United States. And I think we get there. I think that's what you're seeing in the markets, because the other side is more devastation for Iran. And just everyone talks about how ideological and these people are and they're going to dig their heels in. I say nonsense. These guys have tens of billions of dollars in their numbered accounts in Dubai, right? Used to be Switzerland's a haven. Now it's Dubai. They own townhomes in London. For them, you have peace and prosperity on the other side of this. Instead of 4 million barrels a day, you can get up to 8 million barrels a day. You do away with the sanctions, you're going to see a lot of direct foreign investment, right? So the other side, and then you have an entire...
You're telling me the mullahs want direct foreign investment in Iran? That's what they're looking for here at the end of this?
I don't know if they're, quote unquote, looking for it, but it's there for them if they want it and they're willing to play ball. And then now you have an entire region that is no longer a hotspot.
Well, if you're them, you either play ball or you have to get out of Dodge and go hide somewhere, basically.
And then we've had, 10 days to, rest for our soldiers who are fighting, replenish all our fuel, food, supplies, and set up another list of 13,000 targets to take out.
Everybody said the ceasefire was too advantageous for them, but I agree with you. It gave us some time to regroup, too. Charlie, the markets are defying what I would expect them to do, but as long as they see oil under 100, they seem to be, sort of managing every headline that's coming, and I think securing the strait was the biggest part of that. The president saying, we can do this the easy way, we can do this the hard way, but you're not taking control of this strait anymore.
I want to agree with Mike on the rationality of the mullahs. It reminds me when they killed Osama bin Laden, when the U.S. troops or the Navy SEALs went in there, busted into his compound. They found porn, right? They found a lot of porn. This is for a really religious guy. They all have their carnal desires. All these crazy.
Well, I can tell you from having lived in that region, they're extremely hypocritical.
That's what I mean. So they all have their carnal desires. They all like money. They all like nice meals. They all like living in nice places.
They like to drink.
They like to drink, even though they preach this sort of this weird asceticism. Is that the right
close.
word? I can't say the word. Sorry.
You're close.
You know what I mean. That said, they are crazy, and I just wonder if the markets are not coming to terms with the reality is that we probably, if I was to bet, we probably got to start bombing.
I mean, I would bet that
too. And that's going to cause some economic pain. I will say this though. I was out with some hedge fund traders the other day, guys with a lot of money at work. They were telling me that they don't pay attention to the headlines in the Times anymore, or most of the mainstream media. It's so negative, and it defies what their private research is saying. And their private research is more along the lines of what you're saying. It's like we've just taken out the entire economic and military and almost social infrastructure. We're about that close to taking out the social infrastructure once you start bombing bridges and stuff like that. There's not much there left. They don't have much leverage other than the threat of a drone every now and then. And each drone they throw out there, it comes less and less. So part of the positive of the markets is that people with money at work are very positive. They think this is going to, and by the way, they believe, remember, markets price in the future. They believe a peace dividend is coming.
Yeah. So, Taylor,
Yeah?
if the markets are not really focusing on every single Middle East headline, you always come with, like, the good news.
I have some good news.
What are they focusing on?
Well, what Charlie says, you don't invest on emotions and headlines, you invest on the fundamentals, and the fundamentals remain strong. We'll get to Kevin Warsh later, but he's talking about some of those fundamentals. So my theme for today is weighing all the evidence. The bull market deserves the benefit of the doubt. Let's give this market the benefit of the doubt that goes higher. A few points. One, we had that massive contraction that we just saw that pulled tech valuations back down to 2023 levels. So we've had a big run up, but that still shows that there is room to grow. If you believe the fundamentals, we're going to start to get big tech tomorrow with Tesla after the bell. Small caps in emerging markets are still looking at attractive potential when you see that the big decline that they've had. And remember, everyone coming into this year was like, ooh, international, ooh, emerging markets. It's been all U.S. so far. So if that theme were to continue, international and emerging markets still holds room. And profits. Yes, we've talked about this, right? The North Star of everything that we do, so good so far. And again, it's early in the earnings season. We'll get big tech, but that bodes really well for giving the benefit of the doubt to this rally. So I come with you with this statistic. You know how we talked about how we were up for 12 out of the 13 days. Yesterday ended that. Today also likely to end that. But when you get those 12, 13-day runs, 1 year later, the market is higher 81% of the time, and the average gain up about 9%. Now, that's not a massive double-digit rally, but when you start to see these long win streaks, it does bode well that a year from now, markets will be about 9 to 10% higher.
So pre-war, there were folks out there telling me the markets had run so much they were expecting a correction this year just based on that fact alone. If it ends up being 9% a year from now, I think everybody would take that and say, that's great. You get to go wherever you want.
Really?
Yeah.
Dealer's choice, huh?
Correct.
Okay, I really wish I could believe Mike Lee that the mullahs want foreign direct investment. I don't know what they have stashed under their bed. I don't think.
You know it's not good.
Probably not good. I wouldn't recommend looking at that. I don't think they want that. Here's what I like that I have no idea what's going to. I have no idea what's going to happen. Obviously, there's things the president's saying that I like. He's saying I'm not going to take a bad deal,
Right.
and I'm not in a rush.
Yeah.
I think that's great because we're winning. The chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz has been extremely effective. Iran's not going to break that. It's killing them financially. And when fanatics don't have money, they can't be fanatical to others. They can only be fanatical to themselves. So I like that whole dynamic. I don't think the mullahs want long-term peace. I don't think they want foreign direct investment. I think the Gulf states do. I think the other Gulf neighbors want exactly what you're saying, and they've proven that. So what I want to see over time is us be tough on them. If we get a great deal, fine. If we get a great deal where we know we can go in and take out all of their enriched uranium and we can verify that they're never going to have it again, great, take that deal. If we can't, then choke them, get rid of their money. The Gulf states will move in. I think they'll get more aggressive. And I actually think eventually our EU terrible allies will help because they're running out of things they need, like jet fuel. Okay. And at some point, they're going to want to fly around again, and they're going to help us out.
Yeah, despite their adherence to ESG, they like to fly in those
They
private
like jets.
Right?
Turns out they need jet fuel.
Also hypocritical.
Yeah, they are hypocritical. So, again, the peace dividend is what kind of the market is pricing in a little bit, I think. And that is when you mentioned the Gulf states. I mean, never before have the Gulf states been so united against this one rogue nation. And that's a net positive.
Yes.
When this thing gets out of the way, there will be investment in Israel, in Gaza. Trust me on this. They're already,
Rebuilding,
they're going to
of course.
rebuild it. They're going to, and by the way,
And in Iran.
And Iran.
I mean, they've bombed
depends.
the place to rubble.
If Iran turns around and, if it depends on who's in charge. I don't think if the mullahs are in charge,
No,
I don't
I
think
agree.
anybody's going to give money to the mullahs. And that's the problem with private investment. You just don't want to give money to somebody that's going to, build a nuclear bomb.
They used to get money from governments called the United States of America.
Yeah, piles of cash. Yeah, we, that's really one of the most hypocritical parts of this story, and you can't help but reading it in the Times and in most of the mainstream media, is just how much Obama was played by these clowns.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was.
And they were going around the Democrats all weekend saying JCPOA was a great deal. They had agreed to stop making nuclear weapons, not mentioning the fact that nobody was adhering to that. No inspections were taking place.
And by the way,
it was a terrible deal.
Not just nuclear weapons; they were building everything. And it just shows you just how like lost in space the Democratic Party is in terms of our standing in the world. I mean, they really just gave in to these sick people. I mean, and they're sick.
Right,
I mean,
and then Biden continued the delusion.
Of course. And so give Trump credit for saying enough. I still think we got a couple more turns of the screws here because these people are crazy, as Trump's mentioned, the crazy B word, he said. And also, I think the markets are underplaying my view. And you should never invest for the short term, but there's going to be a little more short-term pain, my view.
I agree with you. I think the market thinks overall this is over for all intents and purposes. But for me, it's not over. There's going to be a lot of back and forth. And Mike, I know you want to get a final word. I just want to finish with this. In the interview that President Trump did this morning, he said that he thought the Dow would be down. The S&P would have fallen by 20%, and that oil would be as high as $200 a barrel. So even he is shocked at what has been produced here.
So you also need to understand why Iran is coming to the table is because this whole conflict is somewhat of a sideshow to China. And the Iranians are a vassal state of the Chinese Communist Party, and the bulk of their energy comes through that Strait of Hormuz. Half their oil comes from Iran. So the longer we shut that off, the more pressure the Iranians are getting from the Chinese, their piggy bank, to go in. So this is the markets are right. Like we're proceeding close to that.
Okay, but Mike, remember, and I want to agree with that, but they have a history of negotiating like this and lying and, Iran and dragging it out. And who knows what the Chinese are saying? By the way, the Chinese can last a little more, don't they? Then they stockpile oil.
They've run through the bulk of that, and like no one's ever done what President Trump has done.
That's true.
Which is, and so they can play these games. And like Trump famously said in an interview with Rush before Rush passed away in 2020, if they want to F around, they can find out, and we are in the find out stage of that.
And by the way, Taco is wrong. I mean, listen, he didn't really back away from. I mean, he backed.
You were the taco guy on this show for a long time.
I loved it though. It was such an easy. He
reserves the right to bomb the infrastructure.
Trite state.
It's not Taco.
No, but what I'm saying is Taco's not true.
I hear you.
On most of the stuff.
I agree.
That's right.